Clearly, a lot of people are onto something because Texas has consistently ranked as one of the single most popular relocation destinations in the entire United States. Just over the last few rolling years, global financial publications have named Fort Worth as one of the greatest places on the planet for your family. Major hubs have highlighted Dallas as an absolute economic powerhouse, and the real estate data engine shows that the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex remains one of the absolute most resilient, high-demand housing sectors in the entire country. Now, all of those honors are incredible, and honestly, they are completely well-deserved. But I need to be very real with you right here from the jump. Life here on the Lone Star State isn't all custom boots, backyard pools, endless barbecues, and perfect sunsets, even though there are days I really wish it was. Now, in this video, I'm going to share exactly what they are not telling you about everyday life here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, based completely on our raw personal experience since moving our entire world down here nearly 15 years ago. Because let's be real, you have to live here every single day. You have to travel these massive highway corridors to get anywhere, and most importantly, you want to actually love where you live. If we've never met before, my name is Ludwin. My wife Margie and I make videos that cover everything across the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area and what it's truly like to live here, what it's like to work here, and what it's like to play here, the food, the real cost of home ownership, the master plan suburbs, and the reality of the Texas climate. If we look back to the very beginning, our story wasn't some perfect winning streak from day one. Back in the summer of '06, Margie and I met. I was just finishing up my school, and Margie had already graduated from college, working right in Manhattan just off of Central Park. When we got married a few years later, we had this vision of living, the friend's life, just like the TV show. We wanted the city hustle, the energy, and the concrete. We love New York, and to be completely honest, we still do. But we were living in a 400 square foot basement apartment in Queens. When we looked hard at the true cost of living in New York City, it was barely manageable for just the two of us. We had started visiting family down here in Texas right after we got married, and we saw the contrast. We realized that while 400 square feet in a basement was fine for a couple of newlyweds playing a city game, adding a third person to the mix was a massive eye-opener. When a baby's on the way, your entire world shifts, your priorities change overnight, and starting a family in that basement just didn't sit well with us anymore. So we decided to pick up our gear and make the ultimate transition. In the summer of 2011, I packed up our moving truck and I drove south all alone. I came down here 4 months ahead of my family just to try and find where our foothold was going to be in a state I didn't understand. Margie stayed back in New York, heavily pregnant with our first daughter. She followed me down 4 months later, and before the holidays that year, our first daughter was delivered right here in a local birthing center. She was our very first true Texan, and she was the start of what turned into a beautiful landslide of fall babies starting in 2011 for our family. We eventually had 4 children in total, and every single one of them was born right here as that brutal Texas summer heat was finally breaking into that perfect crisp fall air. I'm also a licensed real estate agent and a team leader here, where we help families just like yours buy, sell, relocate, and invest across this entire Metroplex. But let's get right into the heart of this list. One of my main goals with this deep dive is to be as transparent as humanly possible. And that starts with recognizing that I absolutely have a bias. I love where I live. Now, we made the decision to move here. Our family loves living in Texas, but I know for a fact that it won't be for everyone. We make these videos with the strict intent of helping you make qualified decisions based on the reality, not trying to sell you or steer you into making them. To give you a completely fair and impartial perspective on the Metroplex, I want to look at how the rest of the country views our market. If you read the mainstream real estate articles, they describe Dallas-Fort Worth as this rare, massive combination of action-packed corporate energy and suburban affordability. They will tell you that the median home sales price across the board gives you an incredible amount of bang for your buck compared to California or New York. They highlight the nightlife galore in places like the Deep Ellum District or the Fort Worth Stockyards. They talk about immersing yourself in sports because you can't catch a Dallas Cowboy game at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Head over to the American Airlines Center for the Mavericks and the Stars, or watch the Texas Rangers at Global Life Field. The articles paint a picture of a region bursting with culture, top-tier corporate headquarters, and endless suburban growth. And look, I agree with a lot of that. It's a massive part of the reason why we decided to plant our roots here. But things have shifted rapidly over the 15 years on this soil. The days of buying a massive 4,000 square foot luxury estate for pennies are gone. Home prices have adjusted, interest rates have altered the carrying cost, and the sheer volume of people moving here has changed the baseline of daily life. Let's get directly into what they are not telling you on the brochures. The first thing on our list that we absolutely need to address is the weather, because this is the number one factor that throws the relocating families for a loop. I know exactly what I used to think about Texas before I lived here. I thought it was just endless, dry, flat desert where it's hot, sweaty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If that's what you think right now, I totally get it. But what we actually learned is that the climate here is a strange paradox. Texas is a humongous state, and when we talk about the Dallas-Fort Worth pocket specifically, you need to know that we absolutely get a real winter here. Now, it's not a 6-month stretch of gray skies and endless snow like you experience up north, but make no mistake, it gets cold. Our winter true freeze timeline runs from mid-December all the way through mid-February. During those 2 months, a normal day means high in the 50s and lows dropping into the 20s and sometimes teens. And we absolutely have times where we had hard freeze hits, sending the thermometer plumbing down into the teens or even to the single digits. Thankfully, we don't get stuck in that deep freeze for months on end. It usually lasts for no more than a week at a time. But when it hits, it's an intense, biting cold that you have to respect. You will absolutely be running your home heating system and wearing your heavy winter gear during these months. But once we get past mid-February, the climate shifts into a beautiful mild spring. From late February through April, and then again in the late autumn, you are looking at spectacular temperatures. We average days in the 60s and 70s, the skies are bright blue, and it feels like absolute perfection. But then you hit what I call the super summer, specifically July, August, and September. This is the part that they don't show you in the relocation brochures. When you step out of your house in August, the heat doesn't just feel like weather. It feels like a physical wall hitting you the second you open the door. It is a heavy, intense heat that will make you sweat just walking to the mailbox to grab your mail. During these 3 months, it is incredibly common to have consecutive weeks with zero rainfall and temperatures consistently hovering between 100 and 105 degrees. And because it stays warm overnight, the ground never truly cools down. It creates a humidity cycle where the moisture evaporates from the soil, making the morning air feel thick. We handle the Texas summer the exact same way people up north handle a brutal winter blizzard. We stay inside the air conditioning. We don't sit outside at 12 p.m. We shift our entire lifestyle rhythm. We do our outdoor walks or neighborhood bike rides before 8 a.m. or after 8:30 p.m. when the sun finally drops. We spend our afternoons in indoor entertainment hubs, the movie theaters, or completely submerged in the master plan community pools. It's a trade-off. You are trading a short, sharp winter and 3 months of intense summer heat for months of absolute outdoor comfort throughout the rest of the year. For our family, that's a trade we will make 100 times out of 100. Millions of people live here and thrive throughout. But you need to understand that the weather is a full cycle of extremes out here. But we can't talk about the climate out here without touching on what locals call storm season. Now, if you watch the national news, they make it look like North Texas is under constant atmospheric warfare, which is just completely false. The real data shows a very predictable pattern. We have 2 very brief storm windows a year. You get a late spring window from late April to early June, and a small eco season in the fall around October and November. During those transitional weeks, you'll get a handful of intense thunderstorms when cold air and warm air clash over the plains. Now, yes, they bring spectacular lightning shows and a lot of rain, but they move through fast. The biggest thing you actually have to prepare for here isn't what you see in Hollywood movies. It's simply hail. Every now and then a spring storm will bring hail that can dent a vehicle if it's left out in the open. That is the real reason why a garage or a covered patio is such a coveted asset in a Metroplex. Now, outside of those 2 brief windows, the weather completely levels out. It's just a standard part of the Texas rhythm. The storms do their job. They clear out the air and we go right back into the beautiful blue skies. It's a very small trade-off for everything else that state gives you. The next thing we need to address is something that completely catches people from the north and west coast off guard, and that is the local wildlife, the pests, and the actual ground beneath your feet. Because our freezing weather comes in short bursts rather than long months of deep freeze, our environment doesn't experience that massive seasonal die-off of insects and pests that you get up north. Our environment is ripe for nature to thrive year-round, and if you aren't prepared for it, it can be a little bit jarring. Now let's start with the bugs. If you're moving into a brand new master plan development where the developers have just cleared 100 acres of raw dirt to build those beautiful new homes, you're going to see creatures. You're going to encounter what locals call the pub metal bug. Let's be completely honest and call it what it actually is. It's just a fancy Texas way of saying a giant cockroach that can fly. You're also going to encounter fire ants. This is a real safety factor for families. You can't just go trudging around barefoot in open fields or unmanaged lawns without looking down. Fire ant mounds can pop up overnight after a heavy rain, and if your kids accidentally step into one, it is a highly painful experience. You learn very quickly to get solid professional pest control contract the day you close on your house. You learn to shake out your boots if you leave them on the patio, and you move on. It's just become a standard part of our home maintenance routine. Now in August, you will also hear the cicadas in the mature oak trees. They emit this loud, high voltage buzzing sound that completely dominates the neighborhood studio from 12 p.m. until the sunset. It sounds like a power line vibrating, and it is the literal soundtrack of a Texas summer. But it's not just the insect, it's the soil itself. In DFW, we sit on what is called expansive clay soil or blackland prairie soil. But because we don't have basements here due to the solid rock and shifting clay structure, your home sits on a post-tension concrete slab right on top of the dirt. Think of this clay like a massive kitchen sponge. In the winter and spring, when the moisture levels are higher, that clay absorbs the water and swells up, lifting your foundation. Then in July and August, when the super summer dries the earth out completely, that sponge shrinks and collapses and deep cracks open up in the ground. Now, if you aren't a wise steward of your foundation, if you don't intentionally lay out soaker hoses around the perimeter of your concrete slab to keep that moisture level consistent, your house will shift uneven. I have walked into stunning high-end homes where the front doors won't shut, cracks are running up the drywall over the door frame, and the windows are completely stuck because the previous owner failed to water their house. A foundation failure out here can easily cost $15,000 to $25,000 to pier and level, and standard homeowner insurance will not touch it. When we work together, checking the foundation history, looking for shifting bricks, and reviewing structural integrity is absolute priority for me, because I refuse to let you inherit someone else's deferred maintenance. Now, the next major reality that they do not tell you on the relocation brochures is the sheer scale of our infrastructure and the unique nature of Texas traffic. With hundreds of thousands of new residents pouring into the Metroplex over the consecutive years, our highway networks are consistently working to keep pace with the growth. If you're moving from a city where 30 miles away means predictable 30 minutes drive, you need to throw that expectation completely out the window. In DFW, we measure our lives in what I call Texas hour, because everything is incredibly spread out across two distinct urban cores and dozens of massive suburban pockets. It takes roughly 45 minutes to an hour to get anywhere substantial. Our roads and tollways are actually in phenomenal condition overall, especially if you're coming from northern cities where the potholes look like they could swallow up your entire car. The concrete out here is wide, clean, and massive, but what is not awesome is the sheer length of our traffic lights on the suburban thoroughfares. That is something that takes relocation families a very long time to adapt to, because our intersections are designed to handle massive volumes of sizzling traffic. A single red light can easily last 2 to 2.5 minutes because it cycles back to green. It sounds minor, but when you're sitting at a dead stop during a blazing summer sun, it feels like an eternity. You can literally check your entire corporate inbox, plan your grocery list, or make a phone call just waiting for a left-hand turn signal to change. Furthermore, driving out here is a high-performance sport. Yeah, people who have relocated from all over the world, bringing their specific conflicting driving habits directly into the major arteries like I-75 or I-35 West and the Dallas North Tollway. If you get onto the left-handed lane on our highway corridors and you aren't moving at a serious executive pace, people will trail your bumper aggressively. You have to keep your head on the swivel, stay off your phone, and respect the pipeline. Now, the positive trade-off to this massive layout is our global connectivity. If you live out in the western or northernmost suburban pockets, our highway infrastructure is designed to feed directly into DFW International Airport. I can be on the outer rings of the suburbs and through a strategic use of the tollway system still pull into an airport terminal under 45 minutes. Now, the scale is massive, but it is highly efficient if you know how to navigate the grid. When you look at the total reality of making this move, when you weigh the intensity of the super summer, the necessity of foundation stewardship, the reality of property tax structures, and the scale of the highway system, it all comes down to one single fundamental question that most relocation channels will never ask you. Are you moving for a bigger house, or are you moving for a bigger life? If you're coming down here solely because you want to check a box for a 4,000 square foot home with granite countertops and a 3-car garage, you might eventually find everyday logistics, the toll tags, and the summer heat frustrating. But if you're moving down here for the stewardship of your family's future, if you want to plant your roots in an economic powerhouse where the growth is the baseline and opportunity is everywhere, if you want to live in a community where neighbors still look you directly in the eye, where a handshake still carries weight, and where values are protected, then the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is the absolute greatest place on earth to build a legacy. Now, Margie and I know exactly what it feels like to face the extreme stress of relocation. We know what it feels like to wonder if you made a massive mistake moving 1,500 miles away from your support system. We felt the weight of falling behind, and we've had to work through the grit of rebuilding our lives from the ground up on this soil. But Texas gave us that exact chance to rebuild. This Metroplex watched our family grow. It provided the parks and trails where we cleared our heads during the hardest years, and it opened up doors for us because this culture rewards hard work and persistence. We do what we do today because we refuse to let another family make this transition alone without a local best friend to show them the land. Relocating your entire world is easily one of the top 3 most stressful events a human being can experience, but you do not have to figure it out through blind trial and error. Drop a comment below right now. Tell me exactly where you're moving from and what your single biggest fear is about crossing the Texas border. I read every single comment personally, no bots, no assistants, just me giving you the unfiltered truth. Click the link in the description to book a strategy session. It is a completely zero pressure, no sales pitch call. It's a 30-minute Zoom where we open up the real estate map together. I look at your corporate office location, I look at your family's dynamic, and I show you the exact power pockets that match your lifestyle. We'll review the actual tax certificates, map out the flat paths, and build a definitive roadmap for your relocation. Whether you end up choosing to work with us or not, I want to ensure you have the absolute right data to protect your family's future. Until next time, I'm Ludwin. Go out there and live that Texas life, and we will see you real soon.